Didn't work.
I'm good to go.
All right, I think we're ready. Are we ready?
Yep.
All right, Dan, I think we're ready. Thank you for your patience. That was very good angle.
Krystal Lee Kenny was sentenced today. She was sentenced to the maximum under the plea agreement to 3 years in prison. The judge today expressed that he felt that her actions were cold and calculating. She expressed a lot of remorse both in the pre-sentence report and in court today, but he told her that sorry just wasn't enough, and he felt that the 3 years was appropriate under the circumstances. Certainly, I'll acknowledge that 3 years is inadequate. It is part of a plea agreement we made here in order to get her testimony and help solve this case, move it forward, and to convict the actual killer in this case, Patrick Frazee. Noting that it was inadequate, I will say that in talking with the family, it does give them some closure today. Knowing that both Patrick Frazee will spend the rest of his life in prison and that she got the maximum sentence under this plea bargain, it gave them some closure today. How they will feel about that going out in the future, only time will tell. Any questions?
District Attorney, you previously described this as you guys made a deal with the devil. Do you still feel that way, and what do you think about what the judge said and him imposing the maximum sentence?
I thought the judge did the appropriate thing today under the plea bargain. I thought it was a two-part thing today. One is just legally, what was she facing, and he did rule in our favor that she faced up to 3 years prison. The defense was asking for just up to a year and a half. Then based on that, he gave it an appropriate sentence. I thought he explained it very well. You've seen Judge Sells is very straightforward. He doesn't mince words. He expressed his feelings about the case and gave an appropriate sentence.
Dan, it was obviously very emotional for you, something we don't often see, quite frankly. Could you speak to that, please?
I have to admit, even this is probably the most emotional case I've ever been involved in. Today, certainly was no different. I have to say, even as I'm standing here in front of you now, I'm still feeling some of the emotions. This is just a horrible tragedy. Never had to happen. Such a nice person and such a nice family. It's just one of the toughest cases I've ever dealt with.
You suggested in court that Krystal did not sidestep far more serious charges. Can you talk about that?
Excuse me?
You suggested Krystal did not sidestep far more serious charges. In other words, there were not more serious charges you could have filed against her.
Today I did put on the record what charges we felt as a prosecution team she potentially could have faced. We didn't feel that we could convict her of attempted murder in this case. In the attempted statute, it has an affirmative defense that if you don't follow through and you quit and don't follow through with it, that is a defense and you can be acquitted just for that reason. She did not follow through on any of her attempts, so we felt the affirmative defense applied. I've had the press ask, could she be charged with solicitation? Well, no, she was the one solicited. He's the one that would be charged with solicitation. What she could face was the tampering with a deceased human body. That is a class 3 felony where she could face anywhere from 16 to 32 years potentially. She could have faced accessory to first degree murder, which is a class 4 felony, punishable by up to 12 years in the aggravated range. She could have faced tampering, which is what she pled to, which is up to 3 years, potentially multiple tamperings. I said we didn't do the research to see if we could have filed that more than once. Today she was asking for probation at one point. I told the judge that she already got her deal for her testimony. She already got her deal for helping convict him and getting a substantial reduction from the charges I've just said down to a maximum of 3 years. Obviously, I think the judge didn't necessarily talk about that, but in certain ways, I guess, agreed with it and giving her the maximum sentence, felt that was appropriate for her actions in this case.
Do you feel this is case closed now, or with Patrick Frazee asking for an appeal, is there still more to this case?
I know that it's been reported that he asked for an appeal. It's my understanding under Colorado law, every first-degree murder gets an automatic appeal. So every first-degree murder we know is getting an automatic appeal. That'll probably take a few years. That's in every case. Generally, the odds are not in his favor. Just in looking, if you look at cases like that, that doesn't mean we don't have reversals and the case has come back. After it is an automatic appeal to the Court of Appeals, theoretically he could then ask the Colorado Supreme Court to review the case. That is not automatic. That's up to them if they want to review it. If he loses his first appeal, each appeal after that, the odds become much, much less.
The
Does he have to say what grounds he is appealing on, or is it just automatic?
It is an automatic appeal. You do have to file a notice. When I started my career, you actually had to set out what the grounds are. That's not true anymore. So now what happens is you just file a notice. You then get an appellate attorney on it who then goes through the record and tries to find a basis to overturn the conviction and have a retrial.
Obviously, with him spending the rest of his life in prison, this doesn't really matter. But would your office consider charges for those prison letters, like another solicitation charge against him, or at this point is it kind of pointless?
If you heard the question she asked, he had obviously in court we had presented letters that he had written to somebody soliciting them to kill other witnesses in this case. We have turned that over to another office. We got a special prosecutor because I'm one of the named people in there. So we felt that obviously there would be a conflict of interest if my office reviewed whether charges should be filed. That's being reviewed by the 18th Judicial District, and that's strictly up to them.
Is it accurate that Frazie's family requested to speak at today's sentencing and that those requests were denied?
The what?
Members of the Frazee family?
I never heard anything about the Frazee family asking to speak today.
I think the
I know
Frazee
nothing about
family
that.
considers themselves victims as well, and so they say that they were denied being able to speak because you did not consider them as victims.
Nothing. That's brand new information to me. I think if the Frazee family had asked us, I'd tell you that, and what our reaction was. I haven't heard that ever before. I didn't hear that from the defense. The judge usually brings us back in chambers in the beginning if there's anything outstanding like that. I haven't. That's news to me.
Dan, could you have made the case against Patrick Frazee without Krystal's testimony?
It would have been extremely difficult. I think everybody acknowledges that Krystal's testimony was crucial to solving this case, bringing this case forward, and getting a conviction.
So this deal with the devil was worth it then?
Excuse me?
So was this deal with the devil worth it, he asked?
You know, the right person's serving a life sentence right now. He's the one who actually could carry out the murder. What he did was horrific. And so do I think she should have gotten a lot more time? You betcha. Do I feel bad every day that she only got 3 years today? You betcha. But in the end, we needed to solve this case. He needed to be held accountable for what he did. He's the one who brutally murdered this woman. So yes, I guess you could say it was worth it, but at the same time, Krystal Lee got off way too late.
Any update on the search for remains?
No, not that I'm aware of. That might be, and actually, Miles Young here would like to say something also. It might be an appropriate time, and I can come back for a question.
Thanks, sir. Miles Young with the Woodland Park Police Department. This is always a tough day when we have to come forward and listen to a sentence like this. It's not easy for anybody to swallow. What I look at is, did Kelsey have a voice today? And I think with her dad, Daryl, being able to not only write a letter with his wife, but to stand up in front of Judge Sells and to speak his mind, I think that held a lot of weight today. And also when Judge Sells started to describe his thought process and go through every single thing that Krystal had done in this case, I feel like Judge Sells took this to heart, and he was able to give her what he felt in his mind as justice for the sentence that he was handing out. So I don't believe that 3 years is adequate for what she was involved in by a far cry. But at the end of the day, nothing's going to bring Kelsey's back. And that's an unfortunate thing to have to deal with. We are always looking for additional information. To your question earlier, if new information comes up and we're able to follow up on it, we'll absolutely follow up on that information to try to recover Kelsey's remains. We do not believe she's alive based on this trial. We believe that we are just searching for her remains, but we have not located Kelsey's remains. That's one of the things I'd like to do, is to give her family some closure, to be able to bury her daughter.
But there are no search efforts ongoing right now?
Correct. There are no active search efforts going on because we have nothing to go on that would give us any idea where we could be searching for her. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Anybody else want to talk?
It's 3 years and 1 year probation, correct?
It's 3 years and 1 year parole.
I'm sorry.
Parole is mandatory after every sentence, and it's set. The sentencing scheme is set by the legislature, and they had 1 year parole on a Class 6 felony.
Is it possible she could get out sooner for good behavior or other factors?
Yes, absolutely. I got to tell you, again, it's an inadequate sentence. Uh, I guess I'm going to get off on a tangent a little bit here. Our legislature anymore does not give truth in sentencing. A 3-year sentence doesn't mean 3 years. The day she walks into DOC, they're going to mark her down as a 1.5 year sentence because they're already going to give her the good time credits for 50%. I have another bill in front of my legislature giving more good time. What we're finding anymore is it's not unusual for someone to serve maybe 25% of their sentence on a crime, no matter what it is. We just sentenced somebody for second-degree assault to a 10-year sentence that got out in a year and a half. We do not have truth in sentencing, and that's strictly our legislative guidelines. And it's one that I've been very proactive in. You're going to see me up in the legislature this year objecting to more credits that they're giving people. What the sentence you hear in the courtroom ought to be what the sentence somebody receives in their case.
Could Patrick Frazee?
But I apologize for digressing because
No, that's interesting.
Could Patrick Frazee maybe get out in 50 years then, even if he had a 150-year sentence on top of life?
The life is life does mean life is life right now.
Okay, so
he cannot get any good time on a life is life. The solicitation charges, yes, he's going to be getting good time on those solicitation charges. I will tell you though, actually Jennifer Veman, we had a cold case homicide. It was a woman who was murdered and raped over in the Antlers. And back then it was a 10-year minimum before you're eligible for parole. She just went to the parole hearing and it's only been 7 years. Because the judge made it consecutive to the previous sentence, we now have a law that you get credit when a judge makes a sentence consecutive. They give you credit for the previous case and your new case. And so that's why he had a parole hearing after 7 years on a life sentence under the old law when it was a minimum mandatory 10. It's gotten to where it's just ridiculous that the public isn't being told the truth. And our legislature needs to change that.
And this is just a Colorado thing, right?
It's an absolute Colorado thing.
You've had 2 months to reflect since the Frazee trial ended. What's it been like?
I'm going to be careful because I don't want to get too emotional today, quite frankly. I've gotten enough emotions as I think I can take today. It was a tough case to go through. It was tough on those jurors too, I know that. It was a highly charged emotional case for anybody in the courtroom, and I actually probably had a lot of effect on a lot of the people here because a lot of you sat through some of that testimony. It was a horrible, gruesome scene to hear the description of what happened. I don't think any of us understood the brutality until you heard the expert testify about how that death occurred. He deserves every day he got.